Welcome back to the Weekly News Roundup. I hope you guys had a wonderful week, and I hope you're ready for the Weekly News Roundup for the weekend. All those crazy things that be going on in privacy and security and AI and business and SillyVille this week. And today we start in with the controversial vending machines up in University of Waterloo, up there in the Great White North of Canada. Up from Kitchener, Ontario, facial recognition error message on a vending machine sparks concern at University of Waterloo. So, there's these smart vending machines that were rolling out. They were actually owned by the Mars Candy Company, but they were administered by another organization. And, of course, they were running Windows, and like things often happen in Windows, something went all wonky here, and we got this error. And the application, so in Venda is the vending machine, and vending facial recognition.app.exe application error was displaying on the screen. People are going, facial recognition error in this vending machine that's sitting in the hallway? What? And so it launched a whole bunch of examination, and people found this little tiny hole with a camera in it. On the vending machine. It's kind of right over, just down from the M&M over here. Here it is. There's that little hole there. And so what this caused a big controversy among campus. And then the company's like, well, you know, they're GDP compliant and all this. And then the companies, but the university's like, well, we're not sure if it's Canada's law compliant. The university has asked the company to get all these vending machines that bleak off a campus. And from there, they basically said, well, nothing is stored and nothing is transmitted. It's just all anonymized data. I have a sneaky suspicion this is not true, because here is actually the manual for this thing. Made in the EU, operator optimized. Of course, it is a smart vending machine that is smart connected and has a full hub that the administrator on campus or whoever is the one administrating it can check the status of all of them and see what's going on. And involved in all of this, it even talks about collecting data, audience and location, measuring foot traffic, gender, age, etc., peak sales times, marketing profile data, location statistics, advertising statistics, and interaction. Don't tell me it's not sending data up to the cloud. It is. It absolutely is. They're selling it on the basis that it is. So, of course, you get this vending machine over here, and they talk about higher sales, fewer technical interventions, remote management, and look at this, infinite additional revenue from advertising. And so how does advertising work? Of course, by collecting a bunch of data. So, of course, it has a 2-year warranty. Not amazingly good for something probably as expensive as this. Well, it's earth-friendly with its 2-year warranty. So they're talking about increased sales. Here's one dashboard to connect everything. And instead of juggling multiple pieces of software, you have a single full remote station that you can manage everything. You can specifically send guys just to fill the things that are in there. You can move things around. You can do reporting examples of revenue, top earning machines, top selling products, combination, demographics. Interesting. The kind of stuff they said was not transmitted anywhere. Daily sales statistics, transaction reports, operational daily logs, and global daily events. The vending is the various things, you know, the product life cycle, abandoned sales, vending, the user interactions, product demographics, session time, taps and interactions, heat maps, payment usage, conversion, sales, product funnels, baskets, e-wallet usage. There's some basic operations and environmental, of course. Involved in the environmental is like how many people are coming by. They also, though, have a QR code that will allow you to boot this thing up with your phone so that now they can even collect more information from you directly off of your browser on your phone. So if you scan the QR code so you can do your shopping right from your phone and do your fast payment with your wallet that is embedded directly in your phone, now they have access to all of the advertising stuff that we're going to talk about here in the next couple of articles. So it's very fascinating to see this. And I completely do not believe them when they say it's not collecting or sending any information, because their entire marketing approach is sending information out to the company based on what they're doing. That's exciting. Well, before we get into how terrifying the ad marketing stuff is, though, just a friendly reminder that Google owns FitBit, and if you're using a FitBit connected app and you're sending all this amazing data so you can share it with all of your friends and stuff like that, then you are literally sharing private health information with Google, who also owns a health insurance company, is involved in selling data for profit. Definitely not a good thing. But now we have the one ring of Google, Sauron himself, has forged an application to sync together a variety of different apps, including AllTrails, Aura Ring, and even MyFitnessPal. Is that the app name? You'll know what I'm talking about. So now there is a unified application that you can get in and you can install, and this is going to basically allow you to add the accounts for all of your different health apps that you might use, and then it's going to unify all of this data inside of the Google API. And so from your Fitbit app, you can actually see your information on all of the different health apps, and you can see the icons as to which app this happened to come from. And so now this is just a way, of course, for Google to collect even more data about you from more different sources to collect all the information. The only good news about this is you have to intentionally install the Health Connect and configure it for all of these different ones. MyFitnessPal, Aura Ring, AllTrails, and Fitbit. Now Google is collecting all of that data and using this all, of course, for your sheer convenience, not for their profit and for their insurance company data. But, you know, that's just a conspiracy theorist in me talking. Where's my tinfoil hat? And on to our last article in privacy, the Pentagon, how the Pentagon learned to use targeted ads to find its targets, including Orange Man Russian. Wait, hold on. I said that wrong. Putin himself. I don't know. So this is basically a guy, this is a massively long article, and I read it all. It is definitely worth the read. I'm going to summarize it for you here. We're not going to highlight specific things. But this is a government contractor, Mike Yeagley, who about 10 years ago utilized app data from Grindr to show how individual people could be tracked and analyzed. And he ended up tracking several people who were working in the government, going inside of a variety of government buildings, you know, FBI and FBI headquarters, the Pentagon, and clearly the Senate hearing rooms. Oof. But he used all this data from Grindr to show that individual people could be easily tracked by tying into the ad space, because as they go through and explain in the article and how all these ad spaces work, if you just boot up an application, be it an app or a web browser on your phone that is connected to the advertiser ID, then that same advertiser ID can be accessed from a variety of different ad marketing buyers. And that data is very easy to figure out who's who. That anonymous string of characters, it's kind of easy to tell who it is when you get location data and you know where that phone is sleeping at every night, and then where it tends to go to every day and goes back to at night, and then all that kind of stuff. And so he used specifically this one as an example of what you can do, but then he went from there onto leaving Grindr behind and looking at a variety of different other apps and the advertising networks in behind, so that you could specifically target individuals and find out a lot more about individual people. So remember, if that advertiser ID is serving any form of ads on your device, they can figure out exactly who it is based on the number of different ad trackers involved. And so that's why on my Lineage phone here, I have actually blocked pretty much all of those ad spaces on a custom host file. Very good. That's what you should probably be doing. I'm not saying it's perfect, but I have a lot more protections than a lot of people has. And it gets in here the Snowden leaks, and they're using the Weather Channel app to explain how the whole system works. But the overall point here is that even though they're using these big advertising IDs that are just random strings and characters, you can access these random strings and characters. This is what GA4 was all about with the GA4 rollout. I have actually seen how I can... when we had one of our clients, I was working with their e-commerce store selling Google ads, we could tie an individual sale to one of these advertising IDs. But because they purchased something from our store, I had their mailing address. I had the last four of their payment information, and then I can tie that very easily back to their advertiser ID, and then I can see other places that advertiser ID was at on the internet. That is not hard to do. And it's all available information with the right accounts, and they simply sell access to these platforms. This is not a complicated thing. And so if you do have a stock phone, at least once a day, you should probably reset that advertiser ID. You should run as many ad blockers as conceivably possible, because the government is utilizing these to track individual people on individual circumstances. And that in and of itself is a terrifying prospect. Well, with that, let's move on over to our security news next. And first up in security, a leaky database spilled 2FA codes again. This happened before. This is not a new thing. So, of course, if you are utilizing any service that requires a SMS text messages, there's really only like one or two companies that handle the relays of all of those. Every service, every one of those groups are all pretty much relayed through the exact same organizations. Well, they had a misconfigured S3 calendar, of course. They didn't specifically say it was an Amazon S3 bucket, but they had a misconfigured database with no password on it. So anybody that could simply scrape and find the URL had ready access to it. And it turned out that 5 million SMS text messages, I'm sorry, that's how many they process per day. They processed that many per day. Pretty much the whole database was left open. I forget exactly how many they got over here. But now, to be clear, these are most likely expired unless you were to be querying this. And in theory, if you're actually live access to the database, you could see a query going in real time and intercept it. That is a possibility. However, that's not the biggest risk here. The biggest risk here is more for the data research and for targeted phishing campaigns, because what this does have is it connects the email addresses to the phone numbers to the accounts. So now if somebody's doing research on a specific target or compiling a list of phishing targets, maybe feeding a compiled list of phishing targets into an AI-generated tool or script which is going to run the phishing campaign for you, now you know the email address, the phone number, and the specific service, and this makes phishing very easy. So while these are expired codes, it still contains useful information for people in the scamming sphere. Well, a Facebook bug could have allowed attackers to take over accounts with zero interaction from the individual person. This has to do with how Facebook was managing your reset passwords, because their codes that were sent are only 6 digits, and they lasted, was it like an hour or two, or was it 30 minutes? I forget how long they lasted. Now, basically, if somebody wanted to get in, they could just go to the Facebook page, whatever that Facebook page is, and then hit the button to log in, and then say you forgot your password. Okay, the code's valid for 2 hours. When they do that, they send the code out. There's only 300,000 possibilities that code could be, which you can probe very quickly on a computer program. And so a hacker could say, I'm going to target this Facebook account. I'm going to feed this data in and write a script, and there's no timeout or anything else. So your script could literally just go and get a response, and anything that reported, I think it was a 302 status code, confirmed it. That's the correct reset code. So you had a 2-hour window to run 300,000 possible, they're saying 100,000 possibilities. and that would allow you to reset the password. Now, the only way that the person getting attacked knows is because they would get the notification of this attempt to change the password. So if they're on it and getting their notifications, they could possibly intervene. But in many cases, particularly you do this, 3 a.m., you could steal somebody's Facebook account without a lot of difficulty. Now, presumably they're working on getting this fixed because this is a big thing, and they actually paid out a massive bounty for this one. So hopefully this is being resolved if it's not already resolved. But it's very interesting to see how these types of resets could work without having any timeout delays on testing a individual code. Very fascinating. And our last security is Android banking Trojans. So this is just a little bit more about, really it's a new method of getting the Trojans, because Google Play Store, well, first and foremost, we know a ton of malware gets involved in there. But even the stuff that they catch and get rid of, the scammers are recognizing there's a serious problem here, so we had to figure out a new way. So what they're doing is creating effectively correct apps that do exactly what they profess to do, whether it's a video game app or something else. But when you install it, there is a dropper embedded. So since the dropper is not actually itself doesn't contain malicious code, they can deploy the app where the dropper goes to some benign page that just pings make a tracking pixel. And then once the app is approved and in the Google Play Store, now they can replace that dropper URL, which otherwise previously had a tracking pixel, and they could replace that with the actual malware dropper. So just running the application installs the malware that is already installed on your device. And then this is going to give you a screen here, which is going to basically ask for a lot of files. And what it's going to do is make itself invisible on the home screen. And then it's going to start collecting a bunch of data, screenshots, and other things that you're doing. So it's just a new way of getting malware onto your phone is by using these. This is why I don't even trust Google Play Store. I would do something like F-Droid, and of course minimize the apps on your phone altogether. That's always going to be the best policy. Well, if you want to help support the channel, we do use affiliates. Today we are highlighting DigitalOcean. Of course, if you want to run a Jitsi server, a restreaming server, like I'm doing to stream this to 5 different platforms simultaneously, all this can be done easily on DigitalOcean. And then you can do Jellyfin, just web hosting, just all sorts of cool things you can do on a DigitalOcean. Use my affiliate code there, tlm.li/DOH. That's going to get you $200 in credit, good for 60 days. You can spin up as many servers as you want in that time, play around with a lot of things, and once you spend $25, I'm going to get $25 credited to my bill, which I buy a lot of DigitalOcean every month. I think I got my bill today. It was like $80 for this month. So that's how much I'm putting into DigitalOcean. It's a good product. So with that, guys, let's head on over to AI news next. And let's just go ahead and do it before we take our little break. So first up in AI news, a law firm. So in certain court cases, if you win, then the losing party has to pay for the winner's party's legal fees within reason. So in this case, the attorneys win, and it come time to submit their bill to the court to approve the payment. And the court used ChatGPT to ask how much I should be paid. And ChatGPT says, well, that's $600 an hour. Sounds about good. And the problem is it didn't cite any sources. And of course, since ChatGPT is known to hallucinate from time to time, it drops a little bit of those mushrooms just a couple of times here and there. And the judge looks at this, goes, $600 an hour, and you got this from ChatGPT? Well, let's just cut that down to about $300 or so. So they end up cutting the attorney's fees in half. So despite they won, because, it's probably good policy. Why don't you tell the people up front what you're going to bill instead of winning the case and asking ChatGPT, hey, what should I actually charge for this? That'd be probably a better way to do that. But what do I think? And then, of course, ChatGPT self-snitched on itself. So this is involving the OpenAI New York Times case. So New York Times alleges that OpenAI in utilizing training data sets for ChatGPT, utilized the New York Times to train it, and New York Times says that is really bad. And so New York Times brought somebody in to use ChatGPT to parse out what it knew from New York Times articles, and it turned out that ChatGPT basically regurgitated whole New York Times articles without saying they were explicitly New York Times. And so what the lawsuit is alleging is that OpenAI inappropriately used New York Times to train ChatGPT, but now when then ChatGPT hires who was it? New York Times hires somebody to use ChatGPT to prove it. Now OpenAI says that that person hacked ChatGPT, so that should be all excluded. It's becoming just a giant cluster bomb. It's insane. So it's like keeping all this in place is just going crazy. And this is just begging a lot of questions. You know, what about the Reddit case? Reddit is now being used. Reddit data is being used for AI training now. Do we consent to that or not? You know, is it Reddit's decision to give our user-generated content to AI or not? That's good questions. I don't know, but this is what this article is addressing, is the fact that ChatGPT was used to present evidence against itself involved in the lawsuit, and OpenAI says you can't do that. So it'll be interesting to see where this one's going to go. With that, let's have a look over at business news next. First up in business news, we have a company that wants to give us smart contact lenses that could tell us if we really should have that second cup of coffee. The answer, of course, is yes. Because, of course, in their example way down at the bottom of the article is it could tell you if your blood pressure is already high, so that it could say, that the lens might display a message recommending you don't have the second cup of coffee because your blood pressure is already high. Guys, a cup of coffee is not going to raise your blood pressure that much. Okay, it really isn't. And high blood pressure is not as bad as some people have suggested it is. Of course, it's not medical advice. I'm just saying, don't let your contact lens talk you out of a cup of coffee when a cup of coffee might be exactly what you need. I know I'm drinking tea right now, but I've already had my 2 cups of coffee today. Actually, I had 2.5, but... So anyway, with these contact lenses, though, they have 4 different ideas: holographic smart lens, biosensing lenses, nanoparticle infused lenses for supervision, and a transparent electronic lens. Now, they had a display at this, and you could actually kind of look through, not put it in your eye, but you could look through the screen to see what it's supposed to do. But what this one company is trying to do, and I was still trying to figure this out, a 1-pixel screen. How useful is that? Don't you need multiple pixels to actually get an image that has useful information? I don't know. But they're trying to get this company here, Expansio, I guess is their name. I have no idea if I'm pronouncing that right. Xpanceo. Rule 1 of having a good, successful business: have a name people can pronounce. Their goal is actually to have one lens that can rule them all and do all these different elements. They want the lens to be able to detect information and give you feedback about your biostate, what's your blood sugar and things like this. Of course, would be useful for a diabetic that would have a permanent glucose monitor, which usually tied to like a smartphone. Well, these contact lenses would also use a smartphone app, and so you'd have a glucose monitor that ties to the smartphone, and then the smartphone feeds data into the contact lens, and you can get a permanent display on your eye to indicate what your blood glucose levels are. That's really what the idea is here. So that was really interesting. Of course, in the one, you could see your blood pressure or whatever, all these other fascinating things, which is, and more of a gimmick than it is anything useful. Of course, there was a video this week from Pam Popper at Wellness Forum Health, where she was talking about the glucose monitors and saying, yeah, they're now trying to recommend that everybody have glucose monitors. Like, why? Because it makes them a lot of money is why. But she says that, and she's 40-year professional in various alternative health cares and things. There's no, according to her, there's no empirical evidence that constantly monitoring anything like glucose and blood pressure and things actually has positive health outcomes. Outside of a case like a diabetic, it's useful to do it because that is critical since they don't regulate sugar properly. But us normal human beings that don't have that, if we eat a candy bar, we would expect our blood pressure or our blood sugar to go up. There's no problem with that as long as it comes back down. There's no issue with it spiking for the period. In fact, if you're looking at that spike and say, wow, and you take something and bring it down, you're actually causing your body more harm because blood sugar spiking causes insulin to go up, which drives the intake of the sugars into your body. So, that's the factor, which is fascinating. So, but this contact lens is about that and augmented reality and all sorts of other neat stuff. So definitely a cool concept. Certain applications for the diabetics that need to have that, or other people that have conditions you do want to monitor on a regular basis, absolutely useful for that. Very fascinating. And HP now wants you to pay up to $36 a month to rent a printer that it monitors. This is worse than I originally thought. I looked at this, I'm like, oh, this is definitely going in the business news. No, hands down. And then you read the article, and now I'm just terrified. Now I want to sit there and cry in the corner like a poor, hurt little child that I am. All right. No, so the idea here is you get your HP service, and then your price range starts at $7 a month for an HP Envy printer, and this will allow you to print 20 pages per month, and they're going to ship you all the ink that you need. And then the highest one is $36 per month, which is for an Office Jet Pro, 700 printed pages per month. And of course, they're going to give you that. I mean, I wonder if they're giving you the paper too. That'd be cool. I mean, come on, they could jack that price up a little bit more and provide you with the paper. And then they can even DRM lock the paper. So you have to use their special embedded HP printers or HP paper in their HP printers with their HP ink. And then they can completely get in there and grab and squeeze tight those little organelles hanging down, But that being said, it gets worse than that. If that's not bad enough, this is a terrifying concept because the plan requires you to keep your printer perpetually connected to the internet. Like, you're not allowed to shut it down at night. You're not allowed to turn it off of the internet. If you turn your printer off of the internet, they're going to cancel your service but still charge you. Yes, they're going to cancel your service, lock your printer, but still charge you if you do not keep your printer on the internet. So, of course, they can push all of the firmware that they want, things like that. Well, are these guys just raising middle fingers to every regulator who's still currently right now suing them in court cases? And then, of course, it has an internet connection by having its TOS also state that HP may disrupt the service and continue charging if the printer is not online. It says it forces a constant connection so the company can monitor things like that make sense for a subscription, like ink cartridge statuses, page count, and to prevent unauthorized use of your account. They will also remotely monitor the type of documents printed, the devices and software used to initiate the print job, peripheral devices, and other metrics that HP thinks are related to subscription, and add it to the remote monitoring. The all-in plan privacy policy also says they may transfer information about you to advertising partners so they can recognize your device, perform targeted advertising, and potentially combine information about you with information from other companies, including data sharing cooperatives that HP participates in. The policy states that users can opt out of sharing personal data. Yeah, right. The TOS also reads, subject to terms of this agreement, you hereby grant HP a non-exclusive, worldwide, royalty-free right to use, copy, store, transmit, modify, create derivative works, and display of your non-personal data for its business purposes. Sounds to me like they're taking copies of what you're printing. Oh, it's also a 2-year commitment. It's a 2-year contract. What? Oh my God, folks. This is just... Do not buy HP. Don't buy HP printers. Don't buy HP computers. Don't buy HP anything. Do not buy HP. This is one of the most horrible companies in the world. Do not buy anything from them. Not a thing. If they buy something, stop doing it. If somebody gives you something, give it back. This is horrible of a company. And they're just seeing how many middle fingers they can raise to everyone around them. Very fascinating. Well, if you want to help support the channel, we do have affiliates say we're using Pro Writing Aid. Of course, Pro Writing Aid is a grammar checker. I use it to check my writing on my books and my short stories as they go out. And you can use my code TLM.li/PWA. This is going to give you a 20% off the Premium or the Premium Pro yearly or lifetime subscriptions. And you can use this for a variety of things. They also have they're building in a lot more AI stuff as well. I'm not super excited about all that, but it's there for those that need it. I really like it because you can select the type of document you're writing and it will style it. So when I published a children's book for somebody, we reset the Pro Writing Aid to edit it as a children's book. And then we selected the age range, and then it gave us edits to bring the book into the best age range for that. And then for the science fiction, I select the science fiction stuff. And then it goes through and gives me the best edits for that. So Pro Writing Aid is a really good tool. They've always been privacy first. They don't store or collect any of the data that you are using, and you can use it on the app. They have some extensions as well, although I don't think their LibreOffice extensions works on Linux at this time. I'll have to double check on that again, but I just use the online version is what I use for it. But 20% off TLM.li/PWA. And with that, let's have a look over at SillyVille. And first up, the White House urges developers to dump C and C++. The idea is that C and C++, you have to intentionally allocate and then intentionally deallocate the memory usage. And this raises a few concerns that if you create a variable and then don't properly terminate it, it can lead to buffer overflows, and that can lead itself to some security issues. They're, of course, recommending Rust and some of the newer applications, despite C and C++ are some of the best cornerstones of programming, and there's different philosophies about it, and I'm not a specific programmer. Hey, at least I've taken C++ courses and done some programs in it in the past. But what I found most ironic about it is that the Biden administration is telling us to dump programs involved with memory errors. This is the president that is not going to be charged for having top secret documents because he is perceived as an elderly old man with a bad memory. So just the meta of this article is just so out there that they're concerned about C and C++ with memory issues from the Biden administration. You just can't make this stuff up. It's 2024, guys. And of course, we have to be careful of angry raccoons. And of course, they have these roadside signs, lane traffic ahead or construction ahead or whatever. Well, somebody hacked one of these, and at least the county said, hey, you know what? They put a funny sign on there. We don't really care all that much. But somebody hacked the road sign and made it say angry raccoons ahead.
A traffic sign near Audubon Park in Spokane has gotten some attention. Apparently,
Spokane, Washington.
Got hacked, and it was supposed to be saying something about traffic, but it said angry raccoons ahead.
So, angry raccoons ahead, folks. Be careful of those individual angry raccoons are coming. Now, the actual spokesman for the town actually said, we actually know that there's a big squirrel problem in the park, but they've never actually had any issues with raccoons. And so they said, let's see, was it this? Or maybe it was I think it might have been another article I was reading. The city actually said that, there were issues with squirrels in this park, but nobody's ever heard of anything about the raccoons. But they said, first time it's happened, I can remember, they said somebody had to know what they're doing. But he said, you know what? We're fortunate it wasn't anything R-rated. Workers at nearby Little Garden. Oh, yeah. Customer mentioned a sign. They said the park is infamous for the squirrel population, but they were not aware of any raccoon-related incidents. So there you have it, guys. Hackers got into the road signs and changed it to talk about some angry raccoons ahead. Well, there is our news program. Of course, we have several different direct support ways if you want to help support the channel. We do have a locals community, switchedtolinux.locals.com. We also have a Subscribestar page, and you can have a look over there, subscribestar.com/switchedtolinux. And we do have Patreon as well, patreon.com/TOMM. You can jump on over into one of those support platforms if you want to help support the channel more directly. With that, thank you for watching and hope that you enjoy switching to Linux.